Hello and welcome to the Program Your Life podcast. Come with me on a journey of self-exploration, overcoming obstacles, and learning to believe in yourself. I'm your host, Joe Parker. Join me and my beautiful wife, Kimberly, as we explore what it takes to achieve our dreams, overcome our fears and doubts, and have some fun along the way. It's sure to be a roller coaster ride, and we are happy to share it with you. Now stay tuned for an exciting episode of the Program Your Life podcast. Hello and welcome to the Program Your Life podcast. I'm Joe Parker, and this is episode number 4 of the Program Your Life podcast. I'm excited as usual to be here. Today we're going to have some stories from Kimberly, my co-host. She's going to talk a little bit about some stories from her show, Lost in Sound. It was originally called Lost and Found. However, that just didn't work out as far as the naming rights. So it's been renamed, and she really likes the new name. So today she's going to tell a few stories from Lost in Sound. They're very interesting stories. Some of them are actually in the play, and she acts them out, and some of them are not. I also wanted to mention that the Lost in Sound play has been rescheduled for a second performance, an encore performance at the Jewel Box Theater. That's in Paulsbo, Washington, February 28th. So get your tickets at brownpaperticket.com, and we will see you at the show. Enjoy the stories.
Well, there's this penis story. I got to tell you the penis story. Oh, shoot, I gave it away. Oh, well. Darn it. Okay. I guess I need to call it something different there. Anyway, it was kind of a precursor to that I had hearing loss because I didn't know. I didn't know I had hearing loss. And I had severe hearing loss, bilateral hearing loss. And anyway, so I'm taking this astronomy class, and we go up to Table Rock. And Table Rock is this really romantic place that a lot of lovers like to go. And it's got the view of the city, and it's a great place to look at stars, right? So the professor's got some big telescope, and people have got their notes and flashlights, and it's late, probably 11 o'clock at night, and we're looking at stars and stuff. And I honestly, I didn't know why I didn't get what was going on. I didn't know why. I just honestly thought I was stupid. Because what I heard a lot was, I guess, sometimes I'd hear words, if I was with one other person, and there was no other people around and it was quiet, I could carry on a conversation. So that didn't give me a clue. Outside of that, get 2 or more people together, I might hear a word here or there. And I was in my mind, I was just not getting it. I was stupid. I couldn't understand. Wasn't getting it. So it was one of those situations, and someone was talking about a planet. They were looking up at the stars, and someone said something, and it was like, wow, that's incredible. Oh my gosh. And I don't know if I was putting that together, but I was thinking, I wasn't hearing a lot, and I was also, I don't know, my mind was elsewhere. Because that's what happened. I couldn't understand what was going on, so I often daydream. I would check out, and I would hear, these big, it's so big, oh my gosh. And then I heard someone say, Venus. Well, what I heard was penis. And what they were saying was Venus. I didn't know that till later. And I just blurted. I was so shocked. It was, it was like, oh my gosh, penis? And I said it out loud, and everyone looked at me like. And I got those looks a lot because I would mix things up, and I'd get those looks a lot. And it would take me still maybe a couple of years from that point to just keep my mouth shut over time and learn to say, excuse me, could you repeat that? Okay, could you spell that? Okay, what was, oh, is that what you said? Oh, okay. Yeah. Instead of just blurt out what I thought I heard, but I did that all the time, and I would get these looks like, gosh, jeez, wow, man, and just, so I could never put it together that it was me not hearing. And I was 22 years old when I was diagnosed with hearing loss, and it was a professor, and I just talked to him the other day, Steve Buss. I just talked to him. I had called him after 20 years and thanked him, and then I've been keeping in touch with him. He's now retired. He was the chairman of the theater department. He was the head of the department, and he was a sweetheart, and he sort of took me under his wing, and he was just like my only friend. I wasn't connecting socially with the other students. I mean, he was so sweet. I would just waltz into his office, 20 years old. Is Steve in? You know, and then the receptionist would be like, well, I think, yeah, do you have an appointment? Oh, no, Steve will see me. Okay, thanks. And I'm just, just so, I mean, no knowledge of people have jobs and they have a plan and you've got to make appointments. I mean, and he was so gracious and he always made time. If that man was there, he made time for me. And thank God. Yeah. He was like that, not only with me, but there was another girl, sort of a wayward soul, I guess, that he would be sweet like that. Just a good man. I needed a good model for a good man. One day he pulled me into his office and he said, I want to talk to you. And he had just been diagnosed with hearing loss and had his first pair of hearing aids. So he may have seen some signs. And he said, I think you have hearing loss. And I'm like, whoa. Okay. And then that brought up a memory that I had suppressed, that I had totally forgotten. I had forgotten it because nothing was done about it. It wasn't addressed. I was actually diagnosed with hearing loss when I was 8 years old. And then I had that memory of being in the box, having the tests, and then sitting with the audiologist. And the audiologist turned to my mother and he said, your daughter has a moderate to severe hearing loss and she would really benefit from hearing aids. And my mom denied it. Just, nope, not my daughter, which is not uncommon. It's not uncommon. So she forgot about it. I forgot about it. And then I remembered. And I went home and I called my mom and I said, Mom, remember this when, I was 8 years old? And she's like, no, I don't remember. But if you say that happened, okay, I believe you. Anyway, I got tested. And by this time, I have a progressive hearing loss. And by this time, I had a severe bilateral hearing loss in the 70 decibel range. I don't know if you know anything about this decibels, but that's really severe, and you're not understanding speech. Very little bits and pieces. It's there's 4 levels. There's mild, moderate, severe, and profound. And by the time you're profound or severe to profound, you're pretty deaf. And by the time I became, profoundly deaf, I was only understanding 12% of what people were saying. I'm now understanding 92% because of my bionic ear. And I had progressive hearing loss, which was genetic. My mom also has hearing loss. And my mom did not treat her hearing loss most of her life. She didn't get her first pair of hearing aids till she was 70. And now she has a cochlear implant. And she has her story, too. So I was devastated. I got the news. I went back to Steve Buss, and I just said, am I in the wrong field? Here I am wanting to be an actor. And this is a severe communication disorder. No wonder I'm standing on stage like, what's going on? What's going on? This director's like, what's going on? Oh my gosh, I would get so bored at rehearsals. And I would just sort of wait until to get into character. And I remember it was interesting. Steve was the only one that cast me in shows. He saw my talent, and I just talked to him last week, and we were talking about reminiscing. He goes, I don't know why other teachers didn't see your talent. I knew how talented you were. And I said, I didn't let people see me. Kind of hid. And I was an oddball. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I mean, it was just strange. And I said weird things, and, I was like, it's penis, it's a vein. Whatever. So people didn't know what to do with me. I mean, if they known I had hearing loss, it may have been different stories. So I just said, yeah, I think I'm in the wrong business here. So I was devastating. I went ahead and finished my senior year, and Joe and I were talking about marriage. And so I thought, well, I will be a mother. That's what I'll do. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. And he was very supportive of, we were both really wanted to have that lifestyle and that family life where I was home full time raising a family. And so that's what I did, and I did my very best, and I just gave it my all. And I did not treat my hearing loss. I got my first pair of hearing aids when I was 22, and I promptly put them in a drawer like so many people do. It's very common because many audiologists do not address oral rehabilitation. And hearing aids get a bad rap because of that, because hearing aids really do work and they do help if you are taught how to use them and how to get used to them and you get some rehab. So I didn't start treating my hearing loss until after I had children, and I just decided I really wanted to understand my kids. And even with hearing aids, it was difficult. They're kids. It's difficult for hearing people to understand kids. So I was probably in my mid-30s when I got my first pair of behind-the-ear bilateral hearing aids. Come to think of it, my very first pair was in the ear, in the canal, and I was 22. Only old people had hearing aids, and I didn't want to wear these dumb things. And I kept telling them, well, give me the ones that disappear. And they're like, you have really severe hearing loss. You need powerful hearing aids. I'm like, I didn't hear it. I didn't. No. Okay, then the next step up. I am not wearing those behind the ear things hanging off my ears. No. And I know he tried to get me to wear those. And the poor guy, he probably thought, well, these are better than nothing, And so I had in the ear, you could see, but I was ashamed. And there's still that stigma. There's that shroud of shame around hearing loss. And hearing aid companies perpetuate that. We'll get you a really tiny one. Nobody will see you. It'll just... So I carried that shame a long time. I have no shame about it now. Anyway, I started treating my hearing loss, and it got better. I was hearing better. And I got to the point where I would wear my hearing aids all the time. Get up in the morning, put them in all day long, go to bed, take them out. And then, the hearing just kept getting worse and worse. And I was in my 40s when Joe started noticing my hearing was really getting worse. And I said, no, that's very common. No, it's not. You're the last person to know. No, it really is getting worse. Anyway, I think it was probably still a couple of years before I did anything about it. And I became more withdrawn and shut down and so frustrated, not knowing how to advocate for myself and having no skills, teach other people how to help me. None of this. And this is all things that we need to learn. And again, it's very common. People don't know this unless they get some help or support there's an organization that I found, Hearing Loss Association of America. But before I found that, I'd spent about 3 years in a deep depression and just shutting down and just giving up. I was deaf by that point. I was hearing about 12% of what was going on. I only way I could communicate is if I was just with one person. And I really appreciate my friends who hung in there with me, because I had people who didn't want to be friends with me. It was too difficult, too challenging. So Ashley's my friend that hung in there with me and went out for walks, and so I had some connection. And then I just told my husband, I don't want to go to family dinners anymore. I don't want to go to gatherings. I don't understand anything. I don't hear. No one helps me. No one includes me. And it's like everyone talks around me. And I started bringing books to family gatherings, and I'd go off by myself and read. Or I'd drag my mom. Mom, come with me. We'll sit in a corner and we'll talk. Because my mom's been around this family for, 29 years now we've been together. So I just gave up. And also my husband was telling me the kids were like 10 and 12 at this time. And he was saying, honey, got to step back. You're doing too much for the kids. You don't need to make breakfast every morning and make their lunch out every day and do all this stuff. They've got to start doing more for themselves. And they've got to learn that they're capable. And anyway, that was hard too. I knew he was right. And yet I was a mom. I was a full-time mom. That was my job. That's what I did. And he was telling me not to do some of my job. So luckily, after 3 years, I was able to pull myself out of that. And the Hearing Loss Association of America really made a huge difference in my life, as it makes a difference in many, many people's lives who come across that organization, because you're with other people with hearing loss, so you have people who understand. They've been living with it, so they are able to teach you about what works for them, assistive devices, communication strategies, and they're understanding and empathetic, and you don't feel so alone. You're not alone anymore. So I don't know how we came to that meeting or why, but Mom and I went to our first meeting together and met John Allen, who became my mentor, and he met me at the door, and he's with a big smile, and he said, "Hi." And I'm like, "Hi." And he said, "Do you need assistive listening?" And I'm like, "What's that?" The FM system. What's that? Oh, I said, "I don't know. I don't think the only thing I'd ever experienced with listening devices was those ears, those TV ears at the movies, which were awful, and they never helped anyway." I'm like, or other similar things at a church, and I'm like, it doesn't help, doesn't work, nothing. It's just, it's okay. And he's like, "No, this is different, and this is going to help you." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, and he smiled at me, and he said, "You're going to hear everything in the meeting today." I'm like, "Yeah, right." Nice. Okay, whatever. So he puts this on me, and he tells me to push a button in it, telecoil, and I didn't know I had one. A lot of people don't know they have one. It really helps. Thought I'll just tell you this. So I heard everything in that meeting, and I cried through half that meeting. I just cried. And they passed a microphone around so that everybody could hear. Everybody was just like me, and I felt like I was a part of, that I was not excluded. And that's a feeling a lot with us with hearing loss, is that feeling of exclusion. And people don't know how to include us, and we don't know how to ask either. So, it's really about advocacy, advocating for yourself. So you ask for what you need, and then you're teaching other people, and you're helping them, because everybody knows somebody with hearing loss. And then I got a lot of support that way, and then I bought my first FM system, well, my only FM system, and that's really what got me back into the world, was using that FM system. And I'd have an antenna around my neck. Some of you may remember seeing me wear one, and I wore a receiver, and then the transmitter had a microphone, and people would pass the microphone around and talk into the microphone so that I could hear and I could participate. And I took that to meetings. I even sometimes would get bold enough to walk up to strangers, and I had a boom mic, and I would say, "Hi, I'm Kimberly. I'm hard of hearing, and I would really like to know, I'd really like to have a conversation with you. And would you be willing to talk into my mic?" They're like, and it's not a recording device. I'm not a reporter. I'm hard of hearing, and this is amplification, and it goes into and it's helping me hear, and they're like, "Hi, Kimberly." Yeah. So I just got bold. I had to do that. So I could be a part of things. And I was willing to do that. I was willing to make an ass of myself and look like a fool. And it was really hard at first to get used to that. And then it got better. And a lot of people were supportive. And I'm so glad I did that, because the alternative was just to shut out and, not participate. And so luckily, I had the courage to do that, and I know I taught a lot of people. Even hearing people would come up to me and say, "Wow, thanks so much for teaching us, and you're giving us permission to be bold." And so it's good. I was, helping hard of hearing people and hearing people alike. Then found out about a conference, a national conference that Joe and I went to in Washington, D.C., Hearing Loss Association of America. And we took different classes, and then we would get together and talk about the different things we learned. And he took one on cochlear implants, and got together, and he's like, "You gotta get one of these. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, I think this would really, really help you." I'm like, "No way. You go deaf. When they give you the surgery, you lose all your residual." I'm completely deaf in this ear. It's the weirdest thing. I like it now. It's really like the best of both worlds, because when things are crazy and noisy and really stressful, I just pop off my receiver. I just pop this off, and I stick an earplug in here, and it's like peaceful. It's just so nice and quiet and peaceful. So I get to be deaf, and I get to be hearing when I choose. It's really nice. I was really scared for many other reasons I won't go into. It's a real serious decision and personal for everyone, and I'm so glad I decided to do it. And one story I wanted to tell you that helped me. I was getting signs throughout the year, because I researched and thought about this for a good year before I made a decision, and I was getting signs. In the first sign, it was just like, I wonder if that's a sign. Oh, no. And then the next time, I think this might be a sign. No. And then, oh, this is a sign. Okay. Oh, this is really a sign. And then the last sign that really planted the seed and helped me move forward with that decision was I had traveled to Gallaudet University. I had signed on. Some of you know that I just graduated in June, 2-year program at Gallaudet. And I had to travel there at the beginning of the class and at the end to graduate. And I was at Midway, Chicago, and my plane got delayed or bumped or something, and they ended up having to put me up overnight. It was 10:30 at night, and It's very difficult to travel with hearing loss alone. A lot of people won't do it. You get lost. It'll take hours to get to your destination, not understanding, directions and whatnot. Anyway, so this is how I've lived all my life. So it's like, if you're going to get out there and live your life, you just got to get lost. Or you're not going anywhere. So that's what I do. And so, it's like, oh shit, I'm lost again, and the bus driver attempted to give me directions. It's cars were whizzing by, and people were talking, the bus driver. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, okay, go in the direction of the finger. Okay, the finger's pointing that way. I'm going that way. And looking for signs, and anyway, I end up sitting on a bench, and I'm like, after an hour, I'm like, okay, the bus is not coming. I'm in the wrong place. And this older man came walking over to me, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, I'm hard of hearing. I don't understand what you're saying. I said, but please feel free to have a seat, and I will attempt to hear what you're saying. And he's like, oh. And he sat down next to me, and he's like, oh, sweetie. You lost your hearing? And I said, yeah, yeah, and we're close now. He's right next to me, and I'm able to hear better. He's like, I'm so sorry. He said, I'm a healer. I could heal you. And I said, really? I'm like, really? Okay. Yeah, he said, can I pray for you? And I said, yeah, oh, okay. That's kind of sweet. Pray for me. Yeah, that's nice. And he's like, dear God, Jesus, Mary, and he's got his hand on my and bless this woman and bless her and give her the best hearing she's ever had. We need a miracle, God. We need a miracle right now. And Jesus, Mary, blah, 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 blah. And all the while, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is really sweet. I mean, he's a healer. He is, and he believes, and he's taking the time to pray for me. How nice is that? So I'm going with it. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm deaf. I'm a deaf woman. I've had this problem all my life. I'm not going to wake up in the morning and just hear magically. I don't believe that's just going to happen. And then, bing, after all of the other signs I'd gotten. And I went, the cochlear implant. I wonder if that could be my miracle. I wonder if that could help me hear better than I've ever heard in my whole life. And I'm like, okay, I got to look at this. I've got to see if I'm even a candidate. I didn't know if you have to go through a series of tests to see if you're even a candidate. And that planted a seed. So long story short, I went on and, met my students, and I saw some of these people that had CIs. One woman was deaf. Her mother had rubella, and she was born deaf. She had deaf speech. She had bilateral cochlear implants, and that woman was hearing better than me. And I was like, I'm watching, I'm reading the captions, I have my FM system, I'm, following along, and she's just like, and I'm looking at her, how calm she is, because it's hard, it's frustrating having hearing loss, it's tense, it's anxiety producing, and she's just like, and I'm like, I said, did you get that? Oh, yeah, and I'm like, did you get that? You got that too? You got that? Oh, yeah, I got that. And I'm like, oh, I need one of these. I want one of these. So I got on fire, and I got home, and I went through the testing, and yes, I was a candidate. Oh my gosh. So I had the surgery about 18 months ago, and I have been on fire ever since. I mean, I really started on the fire before that happened, and I've really, really been on fire since. It's like a new world. To be able to understand, my comprehension went from 12% to 92%. Now, that is rare, and we have the same CI audiologist, and she told us that only 1% of the population experiences those kinds of results. So the average is 60 to 70%, which I would have been happy with, really happy with. Gosh, it's such a blessing. I just am so grateful. I know I say it at least a couple of times a week. Maybe not every day anymore, but a couple of times a week. Thank you. I'm so grateful, to have this hearing.
Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We were so happy to be able to share this episode of the Program Your Life podcast with you. Make sure to check us out at programyourlife.org. You can always find our podcasts there. We're also going to have the podcasts on iTunes, in the iTunes store under podcasts, and then there'll be some on our YouTube channel. So look for us online, and we will talk to you again very, very soon. Thank you so much to the Program Your Life podcast. Until next time, this is Joe Parker signing off. Bye-bye.